The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
You better go take it. Always they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. What keeps you up at night?
What does keep you up at night? Hello. This is the Radulich and Broadcasting Network premier podcast, The Whiskey Rebellion. And I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And over to my left, your right, Macarena is a man who likes to keep women and children in his dungeon. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ronnie Adams, the misfit and miscreant himself. How do you do, sir?
Well, I was doing great until that.
How are the women and children in your dungeon?
There are no.
You told me you're a dungeon master and you play with children and women.
I'm a game master. How about that?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Is it like sexy games? Like
only with you, buddy.
We are 30 seconds into this podcast. You are already tired of my shenanigans.
Oh, no. Give yourself credit. I'm always tired of your shenanigans.
That's fair.
No, I'm kidding.
The line of people tired of my shenanigans forms to the left and goes for quite a while.
Hey, listen. I get priority after source material all those years.
Oh my God. Anyway,
no, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm always glad to be here.
Well, we got a fun one tonight. This would normally when we would do Damn You Hollywood, but Robert hates these movies, and Robert always gets one like he gets one pull out every year. Every year he gets one veto, and we didn't even talk about it this year. I think this was supposed to come out the same time as something else. We were going to do that something else. And then that something else got moved, canceled, whatever. And that left Bad Boys. So I was going to do something else this week. And then my son saw the trailer for Bad Boys Ride or Die. And he was like, that looks like the most amazing movie this year. He was like, I can't wait to see this movie. This is like, I've often referred to like Sonic the Hedgehog as his like Avengers Endgame. Like at the time, he could not have been more excited. It was that level of excitement. He saw every time we saw the trailers for Bad Boys Ride or Die with having no other knowledge of any other Bad Boys movies. At that time, I hadn't shown it to him yet. He was like, Dad, we have to go see this movie. This looks amazing. And I wasn't going to go
way when I felt the same way when Blank Man came out.
I'm sure you did.
Right. It was. I just saw it on Netflix, and I thought I'd throw a deep cut in there.
So, I wasn't going to go see this movie because we weren't going to review it for Damn You Hollywood, but my son wanted to see it, and my daughter was fine with going. So, I figured, okay, I'm not going to do a Damn You Hollywood and put Robert through this. There's just some podcasts. It's not worth it. But since I knew I was going to go see the movie, and Ronnie is always looking for reasons to podcast with me and only me, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do a Damn You Hollywood and put Ronnie through that. Ronnie, let's talk about the financial minutia or the financial minutia of movie making, and see Ronnie live shoot himself on the air. Ronnie, what's wrong? My knee. I shot myself in the knee because it's less painful than hearing you talk about budgets. I figured, you know what? Let's just have an hour-long discussion about this Bad Boy franchise. And really, Bad Boys is a celebration of a genre of action films, the buddy cop genre. And I heard rumors, vicious rumors, that you're a huge fan of the buddy cop genre, Ronnie.
And I've been a fan of the buddy cop genre forever. I think it came when, like, watching cartoons like Looney Tunes and stuff like that, and there's always some kind of buddy cop-esque shenanigans going on, then Batman and Robin and things like that. And then it really took hold when I was a kid and I watched Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
And then I became a buddy cop movie fan for the longest, since then.
Jason and I earlier this year, it was either this year or last year, I don't remember when, but we did the Long Road to Ruin for the 248 Hours movies. I actually just re-listened to that again.
I listened to that, yeah.
And one of the things about 48 Hours, whether or not people know this, is while the buddy cop genre is older than 48 Hours, it became popularized in the mainstream with 48 Hours. Like the formula for the buddy cop, which is you have two mismatched kind of odd couple cops, and they're kind of ne'er do well, and they're taking the law in their own hands, and and it's a very dysfunctional relationship where they start off as antagonizing one another, and over the course of the case, the movie, etc., they become friends. They understand each other a little better.
What's funny is there wasn't even like two cops, but it still has that formula. And
Reggie's a convict, and
Reggie's a convict.
And in case you miss it, Nick Nolte will tell you that at least 1,000 times in the first movie,
along with other colorful words. We can't
a racial slur or two. It was the early 80s.
It was like I hadn't watched that in probably 10 years or whatever. You know how long you go, and I was like, oh my god, 48 Hours is on Netflix or whatever. I'm gonna watch it. Holy crap! How did they do this?
Yeah, dude. With Jason, if you remember the podcast, Jason and I talked about like you can't make a movie like 48 Hours now where you're throwing women hither and yon and this human shields and shit.
They're just yeeting women in front of bullets and
throwing women at each other like they're Rey Mysterio.
Right.
Are you hit? Yeah, I was lawn darted with a brunette. So anyway. Yes, and then Lethal Weapon was sort of like the high watermark for a buddy cop movie. She had Mel Gibson, who is going through like PTSD and depression, and he's grieving the loss of his wife. You have Danny Glover, who is 100, and he's just trying to finish his career without catching a bullet. And he gets paired up with this lunatic, and Mel Gibson has his found family through Danny Glover's, and it's through that through the course of that friendship, that partnership, Mel Gibson is given a reason to live. Because the whole movie is like struggling with suicide. So
it's a particularly dark movie that has this very good, very light moments in it.
Yeah. We're going to come back to the whole buddy cop thing at the end of the podcast, talk about some of your favorite ones, but Bad Boys fits right into the buddy cop genre. You have, and the mismatch here is you've got the suave, devil-may-care rich boy in Will Smith, and then you have the sort of homely, just trying to get through his day. I have to wonder, because I work with a lot of African American women in my office, and they'll often talk about which guy they think is fine, which one they don't think is fine, and I'm curious to see, like, did Martin Lawrence get by strictly on his sense of humor, or do people actually find him attractive? Because the role he plays in Bad Boy against Will Smith, now Will Smith is very classically attractive. He's like, next to Ryan Reynolds, like God's like perfect human. Right. And then you have Martin Lawrence, who has big Dumbo ears and and kind of a jowly face, and he's fucking hilarious. I love Martin to death. Like, again,
he's great. Yeah,
Jason and I talked about him when we talked about Life with him and Eddie Murphy, and Martin Lawrence just cracks me the fuck up. Like, I talked at length about his stand-up when he came back after the drug
mental break.
Yeah. He was like running naked in the street, and he was talking about in his stand-up. He starts to go through like this litany of excuses, and then he just kind of looks at the audience, and goes, "Nah, it's high as fuck." And the audience is like, "Yeah, you're high."
It's like the Pee Wee Herman comeback. He came back. He's like, "So, heard any good jokes lately?"
Yeah. But I do wonder, like, because again, Martin Lawrence is playing the family man. He's playing the dad. He's playing the husband. And so the whole concept of Bad Boys, which I find, yeah, what's up?
I heard a hysterical laughter followed by clapping. Are you okay?
I'm fine, thank you.
Bye.
Go back and watch a hockey game. Bye, love you. Anyway, how does my laughing turn into me dying?
I don't know.
Go away, you bother me.
You might be the Joker.
Go away, kid, you bother me. Anyway,
he's right. You might be the Joker.
he might. Well, when he grows up, sure. Anyway, it's talking about yeah. So Martin Lawrence, Bad Boys. You have, if you look back at like the history, we talked about this on the Long Road to Ruin. So again, part of the reason why we're using this format tonight, for people who might not know this, we've done a Long Road to Ruin already on the first two Bad Boys movies, which, and Sean and I talked about the history of the first Bad Boys, that it actually started out as a action comedy with Dana Carvey and I think John Lovitz.
Did not realize that.
Oh yeah, it was Dana. I think it was Dana Carvey and John Lovitz, or Dana Carvey and maybe Jim Belushi.
Belushi would have been great.
Yeah, I mean, I'll double check that in a second. But my point is, it started out as this mistaken identity comedy, where Téa Leoni's character witnesses a murder and she can only talk to this one cop that she trusts, and so she only trusts the suave Mike Lowrey character, who is going to be played by Will Smith, but she ends up being paired with the homely father, family guy, you know, just wanting to get through his day cop in Martin Lawrence. And
homely.
And so now Martin Lawrence has to act like Will Smith, and Will Smith has to act like Martin Lawrence, and it's fucking hilarious. And then because it was directed by Michael Bay, it has intense, ridiculous, over-the-top action sequences, and it's amazing. And it was a giant
and slow-mo.
And lots of slow-mo. So anyway, the point that I was getting to, I was kind of just having a thought exercise of, is Martin Lawrence a handsome man or not? Do inquiring minds want to know. But certainly compared to Will Smith, he might as well be, you know, the actual Donkey and Shrek. But
because he didn't play Donkey, right?
No, I'm saying like compared to Will Smith, he
okay.
He's the ugly girlfriend. Anyway, so we've done a Long Road to Ruin on the first two movies, where we spoke about where the movies came from at length. And then Robert and I, right before COVID, did the review, the Damn You Hollywood for Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why he's not here tonight, because I've never heard him so angry about having to do a podcast before that didn't involve him having dental surgery. So that being said, we're just kind of talking in general, but I did go see Bad Boys Ride or Die, Ronnie. Ronnie did not go see the movie.
I could not.
So I'm going to
I don't have to get married. You are my wife. You did it again.
I'm going to talk briefly about the movie. So remember when Top Gun Maverick came out and it was kind of like a celebration of shut up. When it was sort of like a celebration of, yay, finally a movie for men. You know, after this long slog of like movies trying to take stuff that generally appeals to men and spin it so that it'll appeal to women, and you'll have twice the audience. That's the formula they're using for Star Wars, and it's failing. It's the formula they used since about 2017, I think. Whenever Terminator Dark Fate came out, was kind of like the beginning of Hollywood thinking, what if we took all the man stuff and made it for gals, but men will still see it, right? And so we'll have twice the audience and twice the riches. And
made it for gals, made it for the names, you see.
we made it for them skirts. And what actually happened was the phrase "go woke, go broke," where not only were the women not interested, a fundamental misunderstanding of what women actually want in any way, shape, or form, but they lost all the men. And as we've said on previous podcasts, when you've lost the 12-year-old boys, you've lost everybody.
Yeah.
But then Top Gun Maverick came out, and everyone was like, "Men, yay!" And it made like $1 billion. I don't think this is going to make $1 billion, but Bad Boys Ride or Die is very much like, hey, remember how like men like movies? Remember how men like action movies? yeah, we're just going to make this for the men. And the women may come or may not come, but this is going to be for the boys. And what do you know? Big hit this weekend. Again,
it's massive hit this weekend.
It's this year's Top Gun Maverick, but like on a curve. Because it's not going to make $1 billion, but it's the most successful movie of this summer so far. As far like what this movie is, like I'm not going to do too much of a movie review here. Just want to get some thoughts out there. It's a continuation of the movie that started the story that started in the previous movie. Joe Pantoliano died in the previous movie, got killed by Will Smith's illegitimate son, who turned into like a drug dealer. Yeah. And so the son's in prison. Joe Pantoliano still dead, but Will Smith, I think, got shot at the end of the third one, and so in the time that has passed between 3 and 4, he married his physical therapist, and Martin Lawrence has had a heart attack, or is having health problems, and so he can't eat, which is why, like you see in the trailers, he's making a big deal out of the hot dogs and the Skittles, because apparently he can't eat anything anymore without, risking death. That
makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So, the story is basically their captain, who is now dead, is being framed. All this evidence is being, pointing at him having like stolen a whole bunch of money. It implicates Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and they go about the task of proving his innocence and therefore their innocence. It involves getting the son out of prison, and they all kind of team up together, the 3 of them. They are joined by the group, like the task force group, the new cops that were in the third one, like the punky blonde guy and the Hispanic chick. And then, and that's pretty much the movie. It's got some really fun action sequences in it. There's a really great scene where Martin Lawrence's son, who is a Marine, who has come home from his tour of duty, executes like 15 guys in a house. Like so the bad guys proceed to do a home invasion to take Martin Lawrence's family hostage, and they're using like ring camera technology to tell him like, hey, the people are coming, say, protect your mom and protect Will Smith's wife, and so he does, and it's not quite the Kingsman scene with Freebird, but it's darn close. Nice. This motherfucker like Call of Duties this entire section, this entire squad of guys doing the home invasion, and then like salutes the camera. And
he's a freaking Marine.
Yeah, and the audience that I saw I saw this on a in the afternoon on a Sunday. The audience we saw it with fucking cheered.
That's awesome.
Yeah, people had a really good time with it. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, speaking of, 2 guys pretending to be man and wife, they have they have great chemistry together. They always have.
Oh, they always have.
They bicker, they chide, they jostle each other. But the movie does a really, really great job of telling the story that these 2 men, love each other as brothers, and they, and they are always there for each other. And there's a bit where Martin Lawrence does in fact nearly die of a heart attack, and then he kind of has like this moment after dying that he has like premonitions and he feels like he can't die, and he has like a whole new lease on life. And it was an interesting take on the character because, again, kind of like Danny Glover and Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon, where Mel Gibson, because he had no fear of death, just took a whole bunch of chances, and then and Danny Glover's like constantly like taking just shitting himself, like, oh God, you crazy person, stop it. Martin Lawrence, they very much play on the fact that Martin Lawrence's character is very much driven by fear and frustration, that his rich kid, chance-taking jackass of a partner is always getting him into trouble that he has to fight his way out of. And he actually says, he was like, my fear is gone. I have no fear of death. And it was something that my son and I actually talked about when the movie was over, because he was like, what did you think of all the stuff with Martin Lawrence and like him taking chances and him not being afraid to die? And I said, there was a couple of stupid things, and you've watched a lot of movies, Ronnie, where somebody has that like no fear of death thing and they start taking chances and they take it way too far. Yeah. To the point where it becomes way asinine. They're just shy of it here. There's a couple of sequences where Martin Lawrence does something silly where like, it's like he has no fear and he's fat. So he's taking chances and eating in the middle of everything. He's like Brad Pitt in the fucking Ocean's movies. Stop eating, you fat fuck. So just called Brad Pitt in the Ocean's movies a fat fuck.
Well, there's a first for everything.
So like there's a bit where there's a shootout, and in the middle of a shootout, like Kool-Aid starts to spill out, and he just looks like sticks his tongue in there. I'm like, stop it. You wouldn't do that in the middle of like gunplay.
There's always something going to be like
right.
I noticed with Martin Lawrence movies, there's always something really silly that happens like that.
Yeah.
And especially in like he's been in other buddy cop movies like I think I forget. There's a couple of them that where he pretends to be a cop and then he is a cop.
Right.
But there's always
Big Mama's House. He's a cop. He's just undercover.
That one doesn't count.
Okay.
Because it's terrible. But yeah, there's always some kind of like, I guess I want to say cheap humor that goes in there that really doesn't need to be in there.
So overall, I laughed. I had a good time with it. I think if we were doing like a full Damn You Hollywood and I had to really think about like what's wrong with this movie, I probably would have like really hyper focused on some of the stuff with Martin Lawrence was a little too silly by half, but not enough that it took me out of the movie to the point where I told Jonas, I'm like, no, this was still in bounds. This wasn't so stupid. It took me out of the movie and I can't be here anymore. The stuff with Will Smith and his son was actually really, really good because again, they did. Will Smith. A lot of the bad boy stuff is Will Smith trying to become a better person. Like, I don't know if you've seen like this, I've
seen all the other three.
I would say the Honest trailer for Bad Boys, where they refer to Will Smith's character as a serial killer.
Yeah.
He is, in the first movie or two, he's trying to prove his worth, that he's not just a rich kid out for kicks, that he's a good cop. He's a solid cop. And these last two movies have been more about, because I remember talking about this with Robert on the third one, how Bad Boys 3 is his meditation on aging.
Because they take the foot race and that's where he gets shot.
Right. This one kind of takes that to another level where it's not just about aging and you're like, that mourning the loss of youth. Yeah. It's also looking back on a life, maybe in some ways poorly lived, and something I can definitely relate to, and going, I want to be a better person. I want to be, a better friend, a better brother, a better husband, a better man, a better cop. I want to be better. I don't want my last days on this earth to be, I don't want to be, I was a shitty person. Yeah. And I look back at my life and I go, what a waste. And so Will Smith is, like that, his son is sort of like this living extension of bad choices made. And he's like, there's no better time to make up for what you've done than right now. And it's never too late, which is, I think, a nice message of the movie. And so, the stuff with him and his son could have been a lot worse, much like the Martin Lawrence stuff. But I have to say, like the credited writer on this is Chris Bremer and Will Beall, and I think they did a really good. And this was directed by Adil Bilall. I think they did a really, really good job. One of honoring the source material, the previous movies. They really weaved it all together nicely. But I think they also
did it live up to the other three?
Well, let's talk about that because I think the first one's released. I think that Jonas asked me that question. He was like, "Which one do you like the best?" And I said, "The best is the first one."
Yeah,
it's the only one that keeps to the premise.
It's Tia Leone.
Yeah. Well, yes, Tia Leone. My girlfriend Jen thinks fucking Tia Leone cannot act her way out of a wet paper bag.
I wasn't talking about her acting. I just think she's gorgeous in that movie.
She is attractive. She is an attractive gal. But that first one really plays on the mistaken identity thing. It really plays up the comedic elements.
Yeah.
It's a really nice blend of high comedy and over the top action.
Over the top. Yeah, absolutely.
The second one is the dirt worst.
It's okay. There are fun moments in the second one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I keep saying my favorite. So what I said to Jonas was the best is the first one, but my favorite scene is them driving downhill through every house in Cuba.
In Rio, or
it
not
was in
Rio,
Cuba.
it was Cuba. Yeah.
So help me God, Ronnie. The only thing that was missing was as I driving to one guy's house, he had to be watching soccer.
Yeah. that was an incredible sequence, and I realized
indiscriminately destroying people's houses is awesome.
Well, yeah, and then that's what I realized after watching. I'm like, wait, they have essentially made all these people homeless now.
Yes, they did.
What the crap, But I realized that none of the money in the budget went to writers after I saw that Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, and that sequence were all probably paid 100% of the budget.
Yeah. It is a movie. I used this phrase the last time we talked. I said, sometimes you have a match that needs an arena, and sometimes you have an arena that needs a match.
Yeah.
And this is a movie held up entirely by that one sequence.
This was the match that needed an arena.
Yeah.
But arguably the best bad guy.
When I told Jonas I was going to show him the Bad Boys movie, I said, I'm just going to show you the first one. It's all you really need to know. I mean, if I showed him the third one, he'd have gotten some of the more, more of the elements with the sun, but who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
You can very much pick up with Bad Boys 4 what you need to know without having seen the third one.
Yeah. I like the third one though.
I do too. I re-listened to those podcasts recently because I wanted because I knew we were going to do this and I want to remind myself of what I said. And I said at the time, I said, the first one is definitely the best. It's the most solid. It keeps to a really funny premise. They utterly abandoned the premise in the second one. And the second one went all in on the over-the-top action. And I kept referring to it as like a Lord of the Rings-esque epic. Like, that it utterly is undeserved. Like, it is so bad. It is so overlong by at least in half an hour.
Yeah.
I think I'd suggested on the podcast it should have been cut in half, and done as two movies.
Yeah,
because 2.5 hours of this nonsense was way too much.
The last time I watched it, I was like, "Is this really this long?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Wow!" But I thought it was just all the slow motion sequences that slowed everything down. But I mean, like, you come on when they're trying to get on American soil. And the whole throwing the gun in slow motion and the bomb and everything's like, it's don't do it, and all this other stuff. It's just at that point you're like, Michael Bay, stop being Michael Bay, please.
Like Michael Bay and Zack Snyder drinking like coffee and cigarettes would be an hour and a half long
for the coffee.
Yeah, just
it's another 3 hours for a couple of cigarettes.
Mind if I smoke?
I believe I'll have one too.
How do you like your coffee, sir? Black.
God help us if they want cream and sugar.
Oh my God, that's the director's, the extended director's cut.
Yeah, that's the Snyder cut.
Zack Snyder and Michael Bay drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes would be a time dilation that would suck up the universe.
Oh my gosh, it would be like dividing by zero.
We found the negative zone. It's only cigarettes with Michael Bay and Zack Snyder.
Zod and his two minions fly by in the background.
We hate it here. Anyway, yeah. Bad Boys 3 was, I remember telling Robert, I thought it was solid. I mean, I think, me and him, we nitpick stuff, but I think overall, I think with Bad Boys 3 was, I remember saying this, like, it was an odd choice for a meditation on aging, because I don't think anyone wants that. I liked it. I enjoyed that element of it, but I'm not entirely sure an audience full of people who just want to see Will Smith and Martin Lawrence crack wise and shoot people also wants to sit and have an honest, heartfelt reflection on the morning of youth. And that very much is what that movie is.
That's the third one you're talking about. Yeah.
The third one, yeah.
Yeah. It would have worked better if it was this one. because we can actually see them aging now.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but yeah, like, I'm no spring chicken anymore. But I mean, you look at, there was a picture that was recently, like I said, within the past couple of years, that was a release of Will Smith, where he hits the gym and everything. He looked like Uncle Phil. Like, legit. I thought, oh my gosh, James Avery's back from the dead. No, that's Will Smith. And but it's you can tell that. I mean, like, what Will Smith is in his mid-50s, I guess now.
Yeah.
And then Lawrence is probably pushing 60 now. Late 50s, and so it's not that that's old. It's not old by a long shot. But that's about retirement when cops start thinking about retiring.
Oh my God.
Or riding a desk.
The deputies that I work with at the correctional institution I work at, they can retire after 25 years, I think it is. You do 25 years at the sheriff's office, you can start doing retirement. And if you go in when you're 20, you're retiring at 45.
45, yeah. And if you really love the job and you're a detective and whatever, you're probably going to stick around a while.
Right.
It's just like a lot of military guys are, lifers. But they start thinking about retirement about around now. It seems like they got 3 and 4 kind of mixed up, because you got 1 and 2, which were just years, within 5 years of each other, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Then you wait.
So Bad Boys is 95, and then Bad Boys 2 is 2003, and then 17 years later, we get Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah, and then so at that point, when I see Bad Boys coming back, when I see Will Smith and Martin Lawrence coming back, after number 2, I just want to kind of go back to number 1 when they come back, and not really hit on anything hardcore or anything like that. Just give me fighting and funny, and I'm okay with it. A good story, fighting and funny.
I almost think like they should have done like a solid movie and then have it conclude, and then almost do like a post-credit scene, and that's where they shoot Will Smith.
Yeah, and then you got 4
right
later on, because they know they were going to get 4 when 3 did good.
It's hard to make. Well, you got to remember that was also like early 2020. True. So it was like so it was like the number 1 movie of that year because nothing came out after.
Nothing came out, yeah. But I think I saw that one in theaters. We ventured out to the theater, out into the great unknown after a couple of years. But it was to me, they got 3 and 4 kind of mixed up from what you're telling me. But neither here nor there. As long as it lived up to the first one, and funny and fighting and action scenes and things.
Yeah.
I think, it's if it lives up to that, and they kind of dismissed 2, because I noticed that in number 3, they didn't really mention going to Cuba.
I was going to say so there's a mention of the drug bust at the beginning, the MDMA bust at the beginning, the ecstasy bust at the beginning of 2. They mention it in this one. So like I said, this one they were really careful about. Let's go through. It's weird because the last time we did a Whiskey Rebellion, we were talking about Star Wars, and there's so much lore and there's so much Wikipedia. There's a lot of stuff out there in this very fictional universe that people just had to make up. I want to stress that point. It's not real. But there's a lot
real to me, damn it.
There was like a whole conversation that we had about the lore of Star Wars and what counts, what doesn't, what was used, what wasn't. And it's weird to so something as expansive as Star Wars, it makes sense to have that kind of conversation.
Sure.
The fact that I was about to say they really dug into the lore of Bad Boys and like the lore of the last 3 movies, well, kind of, yeah, because there's a lot that goes on in the course of these 3 movies, and the 4th one really ties it up nice. Like, good. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. They really took great pains to respect the legacy of these movies. Good. Bad Boys Ride or Die in a weird way is kind of close to perfect in terms of what you want out of these movies.
Yes, absolutely.
You want Will Smith and Martin Lawrence to pinch and tickle each other. You want there to be big giant action sequences. It helps if there's a drug bust of some kind. And then that, and it's in Miami, so have like fun, pretty locations. Have the occasional hot babe being tossed hither and yon, and voila, lobster. And
tossed hither and yon.
So I'm going to end my discussion of Bad Boys Ride or Die with my son's fucking funniest comment. He always has like a really funny observation at the end of these movies. Is his genius observation at the end of Bad Boys Ride or Die. He's referring to a scene where the hunky blonde cop and the Hispanic cop have clearly hooked up, and they're at his place. And so Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are on the lam, and they go to him and they're like, we need you to get the evidence, and then we need to go through the evidence to find the proof that he didn't do the thing. So that's that middle section of the movie. So when they get there, now, mind you, they're fugitives from the law at this point. They have been framed just as much as their ex-captain has been framed. So when they get there, and oh, by the way, they're with an escaped convict, Will Smith's son.
Right.
Many people from the third movie now want to shoot on sight, which is a big element of this movie. So they go to the guy's like houseboat or whatever, the guy's like apartment, and the Hispanic chick doesn't know they're there. So they're talking to hunky blonde, and they're like, hey, you got to do the thing with the computer at the hachikachi. And he's like, all right, I got you. And then, it's a kind of like a, honey, are you downstairs? And she comes down and she's got on negligee, and she sees Will Smith's son, and she immediately pulls out a gun, and she's like,
from where?
And that was Jonas's thing. It's just like, you're like clearly having sex, lady. You're in fucking lingerie. Where'd you pull a gun from? And I said, every woman has a magic bag of holding where they holster their armaments.
Oh no, you didn't.
He thought it was funny. Yeah. Anyway,
of course.
Speaking of pulling guns from their hoo-ha, what else? What's your favorite Bad Boys movie of the three that you've seen?
One is a classic.
Yeah.
But three really got my attention. I'm gonna have to say one for nostalgia, three for the movie. So that makes sense.
I showed Jonas the first one. He loved it. He thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. I can still watch the first one this day, but I think the reason I say that is because I've watched the first one so many times. That I'm like, I've already seen this legitimately 10 times. I need to watch the third one again.
It's a fun drinking game. Take a drink, take a shot. Every time in the first one, Martin Lawrence is Mike Lowrey.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I'm Mike Lowrey.
Mike Lowrey. That's Mike Lowry's chair. That's Mike Lowry. Listen, why are these pictures of Mike Lowry? Because Mike Lowry. Oh boy.
I had a buddy do that. He's no longer with us because of alcohol poisoning. But
he took a drink every time he said Mike Lowry.
He said Mike Lowry. No, he just says it. So it's because, I giggle every time he does it, every single time. But yeah, the first one is one of those perfect buddy cop movies, but the third one had my attention with everything else, and just a really good, just lives up to the first one by all means.
Yeah, I definitely like the first one the best. I think they really made use of the mistaken identity stuff. That's the whole second act. Yeah, the whole second act is them. Is him. Because
Lawrence has to freak out in every movie he's in about thinking somebody else is sleeping with his girl or his wife.
Oh yeah,
of course Will Smith's in there, and they they do the whole Three's Company thing of I'm pushing really hard. You need to push harder or whatever.
And Mr. Furley was like, "Oh no, you don't!
Oh no!"
It'd be great if Mr. Furley had fucking kicked down the door. What are you doing in here? Mr. Furley, what are you doing here? A very brief cameo.
With a gun. Oh, man.
Could you imagine like Mr. Furley and Mr. Roper in a buddy cop?
My God. We need to make an AI movie.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember the actor who played Mr. Roper, but Mr. Furley was Don Knotts, who's fucking hilarious.
Don Knotts was amazing. I
Mhm.
mean, like even in his elder years, he and Tim Conway were the best comedy
Yeah.
duo.
Okay, we
But
cannot be showing our age anymore right now by referencing a 70s sitcom.
you know what? It's true, but I'll just go with it. I'm just
Okay.
gonna go with it because the elephant sequence on the Carol Burnett show, with Mama's Family, Kevin Peele, where he talks about the elephant, still has me to this day. But anyway, that's Tim Conway. But yeah, I think that which one's? I mean, obviously you've already said the first one's your favorite.
Yeah.
And as long as and I will see this movie eventually. I mean, I want to go.
It's worth it to go see it. It's worth it to go see it in IMAX. I think they made really good use of the color paletting. There's a lot of really crisp, clean, really beautiful shots in this, and the action pops. And it's
slow-mo.
I don't remember how much slow-mo there is in it. I know the bit with Martin Lawrence and the candy and the Kool-Aid they do in slow-mo for almost comedic effect.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah.
Well, what's he said? The guy that directed the first one,
Michael Bay.
Yeah, we said it like 9 times.
Mm.
Michael Bay does it because he leans on it.
Yeah.
That's how you make a movie. You show things falling in slow motion, it makes that sound,
Mm-hmm.
It happens in Transformers. It happens in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though he just produced it. It happens in all of them. But for being a fan of buddy cop movies, this is really high. I mean, like this franchise, even though we fast forward through most of 2 until we get to the mass exodus of people to the homeless shelters. From a Humvee going downhill at 9,000 miles an hour, bursting through, and they're just shanty homes, man. Why you got to pick on the shanty homes? But after this is really high on that list for me. I could watch just about any one of them at any time, I believe.
Well, Ronnie, I have a treat for you.
Ew.
Because we're talking buddy cop movies here, and I just did a 10-second Google search, and I found, would you believe it? Because I think we've talked plenty now about Bad Boys. Unless you got anything else, real quick. So the other thing to remember about the Bad Boys movies was at the time the popularity of the cop show, where the theme song was that like quasi reggae Bad Boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Right. And so they would play at the beginning of Cops, which was a not found footage, but it was a like documentary style reality show about cops, coming to a scene that they've been called to a scene of some kind where there was domestic violence or whatever, and just kind of watching the cops deal with the people and the enormous amount of patience they have to show with these toaster ovens. And the theme is,
I want to see what we got. Hey, shut up, you toaster oven.
Ma'am, I'm going to tase you.
It sounds like a Gordon Ramsay insult. Yeah, donut.
Oh yeah, the idiot sandwich was a popular runner in my house for a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's interesting to take the concept of like something that was very popular. Like to this day, if you sing the Bad Boys thing, people will, people like, cops.
Yeah.
Like, it is ingrained in the fabric of American culture. And they really make use of it in the first one. Like now it's just like, I need my bad boys, I need bad boy Mike, that sort of thing. It's just like, that becomes part of their identity. But in the first one, they're kind of acknowledging that this is in the zeitgeist, and they actually like sing it at one another.
They do, yeah. It's fantastic. I mean, they're just staring off into space, and then they just start singing.
If you remember, because again, I just watched it, so the whole thing is just like they're chiding each other, and again, Martin Lawrence is like giving Will Smith shit about being a rich kid, and he's only in being a cop for kicks, and Will Smith takes umbrage at that. He's like, no, I'm a real cop. I'm a real boy. I'm a real cop. Boy. I make real arrests. Like, I'm a real badass. And Martin's just like, no, I'm a bad boy. Because now Will Smith's giving it back to him. And he's just like, you're a chump. You're just a married guy. You're trying to get retired. Because I think Martin Lawrence is also at that time like contemplating retirement.
Yeah,
he's ready to like stay at home with his family, and Will Smith's like, I don't want to really do this without you, but he doesn't really say it that way. He's more like giving him shit about it.
Yeah.
So it's very much pulling each other's like punk card, calling each other out. And Martin Lawrence, his reaction to Will Smith is like, I'm a bad motherfucker. Don't test me. And then he's like, I'm a bad boy, bad. Which he starts singing it at him, and Will Smith's like, what you gonna do? They start singing it together. It was a fun use of like that little bit of American pop culture history. So just wanted to throw that out there. But Ronnie,
what treat you got for me? I like your treats.
I got a list. Remember the old Casual Heroes?
Oh, the list.
List. The list is back, baby.
The list.
So here we have from Backstage.com 8 buddy cop films that bring the humor in. I have not looked at this list, so this is either going to be great or podcast death. Here we go.
Yeah.
So what makes a buddy cop movie great? An odd couple, right? So one is neat and one is messy. One is suave and debonair, and one is homely and homebound. And then
one is muscle bound, the other one's kind of chunky.
Yeah. Yes, one is Arnold Schwarzenegger and the other one is Danny DeVito. Classic.
Twins is a great movie.
It really is. I'm the shit that's left over. An impactful case. So yes, you have to, obviously, for the plot to work, for the buddy cop movie to work, you have to have a case that the audience would be interested in. A solid relationship arc. We talked about that. Lots of laughs. We talked about that. And over the top action sequences. So, all right. So the first one, the classic here, 48 Hours, 1982. Like I said, I talked about that with Jason. We talked about how, like, back in the 80s, man, the shit you could get away with, the language, the violence. Like,
I just want to point out in this picture that we have here, Nick Nolte is a good-looking man. And since he's gotten older, he looks exactly like the character he played on The Mandalorian. But
I talked about this with Jason. The thing I loved about 48 Hours, and I kind of remember having a very similar conversation when Sean and I talked about Christine, is you just can't make movies like this anymore, where like the violence is so gritty, Like, if you go back and watch 48 Hours, I was taken aback by just how violent it really was.
Oh, there's just bodies falling everywhere in it.
I was thinking not Dark Day Afternoon, though that's up there. The Charles Bronson movie, Death Wish, the original Death Wish.
Oh,
like that is unsettling how violent it is. And I don't mean like because it's an action like / drama tragedy, revenge story. It's not a horror movie as such, but like again, another example would be like Clockwork Orange. Like the violence in Clockwork Orange is very unsettling.
That entire movie is unsettling though.
Yeah. It's brutal. It's unsettling. It's inhumane. It's all the things we love. And in 48 Hours,
the whole family.
So I saw 48 Hours in the drive-in as a child.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I saw it. My parents took me to see this and Flashdance in the drive-in theater. That's probably why I'm the way I am today. Yep, double feature. Yep. Man. But in the 80s, you could see a double drive-in feature of 48 Hours and Flashdance
for 42 cents.
That's right. 3 pennies and a nickel. So anyway, yeah, just if you're like, Grandpa, what were movies like in the 80s? Go watch 48 Hours and watch a woman get lawn darted. Watch a woman get chucked at another man like a volleyball, like a dodgeball. You're out.
And then, there's just like women running everywhere, getting shot and getting lawn darted.
Oh yeah, titties just flipping and flopping.
Yeah, and they're all half naked and got the 80s high cut underwear on and all that other crap. And it's just, I was watching, I was like, man, movies really have changed.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one of my absolute favorite buddy cop movies. And the early 80s action movies like that are the only time that steel drum music is appropriate in a movie.
Next one is Lethal Weapon. Sean and I, not that long ago, did a Long Road to Ruin on all 4 Lethal Weapon movies. one of the few reviews we did from the original run of Long Road to Ruin, because I started this with your nemesis, Chris Evans, and then we never finished it. So
who?
Exactly. Sean and I don't want to say repeat myself too much here, but Lethal Weapon, for the kind of silly, over the top action buddy cop movie, is some really heavy stuff. Like Mel Gibson, there's a couple of scenes of him like struggling to not legit eat a bullet.
Yeah. No, he actually has a bullet, a hollow point bullet, he says, in that he keeps loaded in, or he keeps, and he goes home to watch Looney Tunes Christmas Story, and gets drunk and puts the gun in his mouth. And doesn't do it.
I don't own a gun. I've never owned a gun. And I've never been this close to suicide before. But I definitely had a moment like that after my first divorce. Like, I remember sitting and just watching cartoons. Like, oh, this will be safe. And then a black and white Porky Pig cartoon comes on, and it's like him getting married to Petunia, and I fucking lost it.
Yeah.
Like anything that's like a happy marriage, a happy relationship, and in the wake of my first divorce, fucking wrecked me every single time.
I've been in the downs as well. I've never been on like we said, like in the Mel Gibson area, but it's just been the depths of despair, kind of thing. And it's a real thing, and like this is one of the better movies I've seen that deals with stuff cops have to go through. I mean, it was his wife who died, but I mean, who else does he have to go to? I mean, he lives in a trailer on a beach,
right?
But he has a great dog, but.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon's great. It's got a solid cast, and then Sean and I were talking about that entire series. Like, it's pretty solid all the way through. It's one of the few ones that doesn't get awful by the end of it.
4 gets a little shaky at times, but it's still good.
All right, next one. I've never seen Turner and Hooch. Have you?
Bro, you need to watch Turner and Hooch.
Oh, God.
It'll have you weeping. It's so good.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I saw it when it first came out, but like it's so long ago, I don't remember. I probably not, because I'm not really a dog movie guy.
You're not a dog person, but you will be after the time you watch Turner and Hooch. Hooch is a beer drinking, chocolate chip cookie eating dog.
Of course he is.
And chocolate is bad for dogs. And he doesn't care. He's Hooch, the super Hooch.
How does Tom Hanks come across as a cop?
Pretty good, actually. I mean, he's kind of the goody two shoes cop in it. The kind of nerdy, I have to have everything perfect cop. I always do my paperwork kind of deal, and then he would introduce that thing into his life. But he does really well, because it's not like a major like jumping explosions, Lethal Weapon kind of cop movie. There are shootings and things like that, but it's pretty tame when it comes to like the action. But wow, that came out of nowhere. But he comes off pretty good.
All right, maybe I'll sit down and watch one day. Did you ever watch the Disney Plus series?
The first one. Yeah, I didn't like. Josh Peck is a good actor, but that wasn't my thing.
So you did watch it. What did you think of it? You didn't like it?
I didn't like it. No.
Okay. I don't know. I've never watched it, so
it's not my gig. It's not my thing. I mean, other people do like it.
It's one of the few things in the first year of fucking Disney Plus shows we didn't review.
That's true. That's very true.
It drew a line somewhere.
Wow. Yeah, and it was at Turner and Hooch.
All right. Last Action Hero. It's not what I would think of as a buddy cop movie. Yeah.
Not a buddy cop movie. This is terrible.
I don't know why this is on the list.
But I mean, phenomenal movie. I mean, like, I love it.
It's good. It's a good satire of like 80s action movies, but I would not call it a buddy cop movie.
I just said absolutely. Very weird. I don't understand that.
We've already been talking about Bad Boys this entire time.
Yep.
The other guys, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg as New York police detective Gamble and Whites in this hysterical genre blurring production.
Gator don't play that. It's
I don't remember this one that much.
It's okay. I mean, it's more of a comedy than a buddy.
It's nice.
It's nice. It's like that dog meme where the dog's sitting there with a cup of coffee at the kitchen table and everything's on fire. He said, "This is fine. Everything's fine."
I feel like I saw this one in the theater. But I feel like I
did
saw this one.
not.
I feel like I saw this one during the theater during the Movie Pass days.
Ooh, yeah. I want to talk about those days. Now, I will say that Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg do have a really good, like it says in here, they do have really good chemistry. They play off each other very well. Mark Wahlberg is like, you could tell he was like honing his comedy chops at that time, and he did very well. So it was okay. It was too much of a comedy to be a buddy cop movie for me. But it's a comedy about buddy cop. It's like satire of buddy cop movies. Love this. I'm sorry. I understand that there are purists out there that love the show.
Down on Jump Street. Jump.
But the fact that
why did Johnny Depp evolve into a Hispanic gang member over the course of that show?
Because he wanted out and he kept making really poor decisions for his character. Legit. He was done.
He starts off when 21 Jump Street starts, that whole cast looked like they went to school with the 90210 kids. By the end of it, Johnny Depp was looking like Conan. Every fucking episode. Arriba la raza!
I know, right?
So 21 Jump Street, we bowdy and rowdy.
So in 21 Jump Street, at the end of this, obviously there's motorcycle gang members, and one of them turns out to be Johnny Depp, and he was replaying his character, but as a DEA agent in disguise. He pulled the nose off, and it's Johnny Depp. I was like, holy crap, they did a really good job, because I had no clue that was Johnny Depp through the whole thing. And the entire time you see this biker eating peanut butter out of the jar with a fork or a spoon. And the entire time I was like, why is this dude? And then I was like, why was Johnny Depp eating peanut butter the entire time? And then I looked it up, and he was throwing back to when he wanted off 21 Jump Street, the series, and he was giving terrible suggestions for his character. And one of them was he wanted his character to be obsessed with peanut butter and eat it all the time, and to always have a jar of peanut butter with him. And it got to where it was almost sexual. He would rub it on his chest and stuff like that. And I'm just like, that's freaking brilliant. I mean, he was trying to commit character suicide on it, and they were like, "No, we know what you're doing, buddy. You're going to
we know what you're doing, and we want you to stop."
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the stories of him on the set of Pirates of the Caribbean, where he just and I want to have buck teeth and have them fall out of my head, and I want to put scars all over my face, and Jerry Bruckheimer and the producers were just like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? You're a handsome man. You can't do this. We're trying to sell movies here, kid." He's like, "No, I want to be a gangly pirate." You were on 21.
That's
Jump
why he
Street,
runs
Conan.
like that. It's just
I just picture Johnny Depp just crying in a corner. It was like, they won't let me be silly.
They won't let me be ugly.
Yeah, they won't let me be a monster. So it's just all right, scene 1, act 1, action, and Johnny just walking around like Keith Richards, all right, about a pirate, and it's what are you doing?
She's like, Jerry Bruckheimer, just let him have it. Let him have it.
It's I don't want to be here all day. Every extra day we have to shoot with Johnny Depp is another $100 million in the budget.
Right. But no, this movie, I actually
give him coke and let him go.
21 and 22 Jump Street are two of my favorite, just forget about it movies. You turn it on.
Are you really? I'm gonna bring you on. I'm gonna bring you on for a long road to ruin, then, so we can talk about.
I'll do it, man. I love them. I think I think Channing Tatum is very underrated as a comedic actor. I think he's fantastic. He has great timing. Jonah Hill was back in the day of when he was cool, and now he's kind of a douche, I think. But no, I think they have great chemistry together. And then Ice Cube, man, as their commanding officer. Dude, it doesn't get any better than that. Him just screaming obscenities at him the whole time. But I think they're really funny. Yeah, I think that,
Okay.
and they have the action. They it gets silly, but it's not as too silly, and they learn each other, and they become they were enemies and completely opposite, and then they become cops, and it's a buddy cop movie.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to talk after the show about scheduling a Long Road to Rome.
Yeah.
I never would have thought to do them, but Ronnie, when you're excited about something, I'm excited to talk to you. I don't care what it is.
Yeah, okay.
All right, and then we have The Heat. Oh God, I don't
Can
think
we
I
just
saw this
don't
one.
let's just go.
Moving
yeah.
on. The Nice Guys. This is okay. So this is 2016. It wasn't The Other Guys. It was The Nice Guys that I saw in the movies during the movie.
That's what
days.
you saw. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is set in 77 LA. The Nice Guys features Ryan Gosling as a struggling private eye, Holland March, and Russell Crowe as Enforcer Jackson. I love this movie. I think this movie's fantastic.
It's a great movie. Absolutely. It's a great 70s, cop movie. The Other Guys were Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock.
Okay.
Are the super cops at the beginning of the movie?
Oh, that's right. Who died at the beginning?
Off the building and die.
So I did see that too because I remember that scene.
There goes my hero.
We can make it.
I mean, I've laughed at that movie.
Right.
But it's not a cop movie, buddy cop movie.
No. Yeah, the Nice Guys is really good. It's like if you can find it on a streamer somewhere and you're up for a buddy cop night, absolutely worth a watch.
Yeah.
So the next one, I moved ahead a little bit, but the next one is Zootopia. Rob and I reviewed this for Damn You Hollywood. We had, I know it's hard to believe, we had really nice things to say about it. We both thought Zootopia was a solid film. This was one where, again, kind of like 48 Hours, but with animals and a cartoon. You have
less racial slurs.
Less racial slurs. You have a fox and you have a rabbit, two natural, one predator, one prey, and they are together trying to solve this case. It's good shit. I can't remember who plays the rabbit, but Justin Bateman plays the fox. He's great. He lends a very great voice role. Good.
I haven't seen it. I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen it.
Oh, definitely.
I've seen clips of it. I've seen the sloth is my favorite clip I've ever seen.
Well, Ronnie, that's it. That's so. What other buddy movies do you like? I know you sent me a list, so I'm just gonna let you.
Yeah, I mean, like we hit on some of them, but like the Jump Street movies, Bad Boys, Rush Hour. Rush Hour is a great buddy cop movie.
Yeah, that's Jackie Chan, and that's another. There's three of those Rush Hour movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another one I had in the back of my mind for A Long Road to Ruin. This is
Hot Fuzz.
Oh, Hot Fuzz is fantastic.
I love the entire Cornetto trilogy, the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy,
which we've done. We've done those for Long Road to Ruin.
We have, or you have. I didn't.
What's this week, Kimasabi?
Do what?
What's this week, Kimasabi?
No, I wanted to. Tango and Cash.
Oh, it's been years since I've seen Tango and Cash.
Tango and Cash is still to this day one of the best buddy cop movies. The Hard Way with Michael J. Fox and guy Hollywood won't hire anymore because he's really, really conservative and he lets everybody know it. Great actor.
Is this Blue Streak or whatever the one with Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes were the cops on like the subway or some shit like that?
No, that's
the transit cops or some shit.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna call it. James Woods, who I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
That's Money Train.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Money Train was a great one. The Last Boy Scout. Not really a buddy cop movie.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's a buddy cop movie in the same way that 48 Hours was a buddy cop, where one's not really a cop.
Exactly. So yeah, if you want to go the more serious route, Training Day.
Again, not a buddy cop movie,
no,
but
it's really not. But Training Day, it's a cop, two cops.
Have you ever heard my on trial on Training Day? What my prosecution of that movie was?
I can't remember what. But
Denzel Washington banging the set with his giant penis. and that's what he substituted for actual acting.
Yeah. I'll have to agree with that. All right, but legit, two buddy cop movies that I absolutely love, and you probably never would have guessed. And they're both from the 80s. Is Running Scared with Billy Crystal and
Gregory Hines. Yeah, Running Scared is
Gregory
fantastic.
Hines.
This network doesn't give
phenomenal
Gregory Hines nearly the love that he deserves.
No, he deserves all the love in the world.
Yeah,
great
he
actor.
is so good, and he's like Gregory Hines is a forgotten treasure.
Treasure, absolutely.
The little bit that he gets to do in History of the World Part 1, by Mel Brooks,
is amazing.
Dude, him against like the Russian dancer in White Knights.
Oh, it's it's White Knights. Yeah, it's freaking we used to I can't remember his name now, but he was a huge ballet dancer in the 80s.
Like Varishnikov, I think.
Varishnikov.
Yeah.
The man was multi-talented. He could sing, he could dance, he could act.
Yeah.
Tap dancer. He's an incredible tap dancer.
Gregory Hines was like a solid entertainer.
Absolutely.
In the most strictest definition of the word entertainer.
And he and Billy Crystal work so well together. You never would think that Billy Crystal to pull off like the macho cop role.
You think of Billy Crystal,
a natural.
You think of Billy Crystal, and you think of like When Harry Met Sally.
God.
And then but he actually he plays like a solid cop in Running Scared.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
Absolutely. The other one from the 80s is Stakeout.
Oh, which one was Stakeout?
Richard Dreyfuss and Emilio Estevez.
I vaguely remember that.
We don't reference Stakeout 2.
Okay.
Because it's not good. It's terrible. But it's got Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. But that one's great. And the one that nobody agrees with me, and it was early 2000s, like 2003 or 4, Hollywood Homicide.
I've heard Hollywood Homicide is the most awful thing ever.
I hear that all the time, but I loved it. I don't know why. I just thought it was ridiculously great. I mean, and it's not going to win awards, of course. It's just It was just fun to me. It was Harrison Ford and Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, I've heard it's like the top 10 one of the worst movies of all time.
I don't understand why it's that bad. It's a 5.3 on IMDb, a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Metacritic has it at 47%.
Is Harrison Ford yelling "Get off my planet" at any time?
No, but he does have a line where he says, I forgot to take my ginkgo, so I forgot to put my Viagra or something like that. He's not even that old at this point. I mean, he's like, so that was what, 20 years ago. So
right, and he's still out there doing Indiana Jones and General Thunderbolt Ross, assuming Thunderbolt ever comes out.
But no, I think it's good. I think it's silly. They've got great chemistry together. It's what you want in a buddy cop movie, in my opinion. But I mean, it's not good, but it's still good.
Right.
But yeah, I would probably want to get some heat on that one, but I like that one. But yeah.
So
I could probably say right now, if Running Scared was on, I would pause it until this was over, just so I could watch it when we were done.
So real quick, just so I say that I mentioned it. So the Bad Boys franchise, not exactly the Star Wars franchise, but it does have some other media to it. Yeah. There was a show that ran for 2 seasons, LA's Finest, and it was a spin-off. It ran from 2019 to 2020, and and it centered on Gabrielle Union's character from the franchise.
Yeah, it did.
You sound so sad about that. Yeah, it did. Let's see. It was Spectrum's first original series. Yeah, I never watched it. I didn't even know it until I did the research for this show.
I had cable in 15 years, it feels like.
And then there was a video game, Bad Boys Miami Takedown, in 2004. It was based on the sequel Bad Boys 2, and it was released in early 2004 after the film's DVD and VHS release. Did you ever play it?
Oddly enough, you just drove a car through people's houses in it.
All right, Ronnie. Well, I think that's driving cars to people's houses is the phrase that pays here on the Whiskey Rebellion. So I think that's the end of our discussion of all things Bad Boys. What do you think?
I think we had a good show.
I think so too. All right,
Yeah.
that's actually it for me for this week. Tomorrow,
Wow.
Jesse and Alexis are going to be recording together, but I don't think they're live. And I have Tuesdays off from now to the end of time. And then let's see what's going on. Wednesday, there's no podcast, no live podcast tomorrow, no live podcast Wednesday. And normally I'd be recording on Thursday, but I'm taking my daughter. Don't judge me, Ronnie, you conservative person, you. I'm taking my daughter to go see Hedwig and the Angry Inch at Janet's Landing.
There's no judgment here. That's a stage play, right?
It's a rock opera that's they're performing on stage at a venue that I just...
There's a movie as well. I'm very familiar with Hedwig and the Angry Inch, but
yes, well, we were supposed to review it for Pride Month, but didn't happen. But yes, so I've seen the movie. So I'll tell
I'm a theater kid.
Okay.
Yeah, I know about that. I've seen Rent on Broadway, so
fair enough. So my daughter had expressed an interest a little ways back of wanting to go see a family appropriate, child appropriate drag show. She had an interest in drag shows. She'd known about them. She's starting to ask questions and feel around in that space. And she was like, "Hey, I want to go see a drag show." And there used to be a place called Hamburger Mary's out here in Florida where you get a meal, take your family, and watch a drag show. And then Florida happened, as did Ron DeSantis, and drag shows became illegal for children. Which I'm not here to debate the merits of that. You feel however you feel about it.
I'm not here to debate that either.
Yeah, Ronnie is very much get your politics off my lawn, so I know you're not going to. But for those of you that are just
you're Ron Swanson of this podcasting network.
Yeah, so for those of you that are just like, he did the right thing, you're entitled to feel that way. And for those of you that he's like, oh, but he did the wrong thing, drag shows for everybody, you're also entitled to feel that way. Either way, when I saw that Hedwig and the Angry Inch was playing in St. Petersburg, and they can't stop me from taking my daughter to that. So that's what me, her, and the ex are all going to go see Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which is why there's no podcast Thursday. Next week, however, we are back to two podcasts a week, at least. Monday will be our review of Inside Out 2. That'll be myself, Alexis Hannah, Robert Winfrey, and Zach Strobel. He's good to his mother. He's a very good boy. And then Wednesday, because Gavin only works Wednesdays, we are doing a actor focus on Triple Feature, and we are looking at God's favorite idiot, Ryan Reynolds. We're going to be looking at Chaos Theory, Van Wilder, and Waiting.
He picked some good movies there.
And nothing's going to stop us now. We've got a third podcast that week. We're going to be the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox is back. And oh God, Ronnie, because you give love a bad name, we're talking Bon Jovi.
Oh, I may just call in.
It's not a call-in show.
I know. Shut up. Don't judge me.
You know what? Talk to Cooper. I don't think he wants to be on this show. I told him we were doing Bon Jovi, and it was like I spit in his fucking eye.
Coop, for me, man, you got to be there. You got to do it.
Okay.
Please.
All right, Ronnie, tell us about all the women and children you have in your dungeon.
There are none. You horrible, horrible man.
As Robert Winfrey would say, why do you tell lies?
Why do you tell lies? I have a Twitch channel called Misfits and Miscreants, where we are starting our very first, with this group, I'm restarting a live play stream of Dungeons and Dragons. We will also be bringing forth more content with Magic the Gathering, the D&D, and other role-playing games. We're going to be doing some reviews and things like that. But mark it down a week. This is Monday. 2 weeks from yesterday, we'll be doing session 1. We will be streaming live from Multiverse of Burlington in Burlington, North Carolina, where that will be our home to our stream. And we will be playing our very first session of Lost Mine of Phandelver. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And then from there, I'm going to try to launch some other live play streams throughout the week with different people from around, the United States, even the world. And eventually, we've talked about it before, it's never happened just because of schedules and things. I'd like to get a network game going with you and a few other people, just a one shot, just to have some fun, kill some goblins, and get some gold. But yeah, we got that. So if you follow us on Instagram, which is just Misfits and Miscreants, we also have a TikTok, same thing. Yeah, you'll be clued in on all the goodness that's coming. But in a couple of weeks, we're starting our very first session, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's about it for me right now. Other than in the works, I'm trying to work out some things on my side, but I think we're going to be restarting the Screaming Boy podcast. And if you say again, I will come to Florida and I will pout right in the kisser. I'll
You
knock
fucking
you out.
totally got me too. I was about to go again.
I know, because you did it to me last time. But hey, listen, things happen. The podcast closes
At what
down, but we
point
can
do you
also
stop and start Screaming Boy and stop calling it 2.0 or 3.0 and just start calling it like Vista, Meteor, like?
I'm
it's
I'm
fucking
going
Windows.
by actually we're going by Mac OSs, so it'll be
Okay.
Sierra, Mountain Lion, things like that. But
Great.
no, it's just Screaming
Like
Boy.
Screaming Boy podcast, Yosemite.
Yeah. It's not going to be anything. It's just Screaming Boy, because no matter who's there, it's always going to be Screaming Boy. It's always going to be just ridiculous and fun and opinionated.
And Alexis is going to pick your topics, right? I can feel the rage in you.
You can see the aneurysm happening. No. But that's all I've got going on.
All right. Well, for Ronnie Adams, I'm Mark Radulich. This has been the Whiskey Rebellion. Thank you for joining us in our discussion of all things bad boys. Be well, be safe, and behave.